perfect punching setup right there.
Got him, got him. Oh, good one too.
Miller tungsten punching weight.
65-pound line.
Yeah! Biggin', 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 biggin'.
Giant fish. Oh, man.
Better fish.
Got it. Oh,
That's
Yeah.
nice one. That's what we're punching for. Yeah!
Hi guys, we're out here on the California Delta and we're going to talk about punching. We're going to talk about two different types of punching. One is submerged grass and the other is emerged grass like hyacinth, pennywort, and the submerged grass is like alidea and hydrilla that's under the water. So we're going to use kind of two different setups for this, and I'm going to show you what we're going to use. So first, for the emergent grass, we're going to use a river to sea trash bomb, 1.5 ounce weight. And the reason we're using this particular one is it has a nice nylon slide inside, so it won't cut your braided line. Okay, for the submerged grass, we're going to use a 1 ounce weight, and I kind of call this my finesse punching rig. Okay, we're going to use a good heavy bobber stopper to hold the weight up, and I'm going to show you how to tie this up. For the 1.5 ounces and the punching the stuff on top, we're going to use a Bub Tosh punch skirt, paycheck punch skirt. So it just adds a little bit to it. I think, you know, the 1.5 ounces falls pretty fast, so we want a little something extra on it to make that fish react to it. Okay. The hook we're going to use a Gamakatsu. Generally use a 4/0, just depends on what size bait I'm using, and we'll go over that in a minute. Use a 4/0 heavy cover Gamakatsu hook. This is really a stout hook and you don't have to worry about it bending out. Some of the baits we're going to use, I pretty much use two different baits. I use a flapping hog or a beaver. You know, once in a while I use maybe a big grub or some other things if you're having a hard time getting a fish to bite, but generally these are the two, you know, top color baits. And most of the time I'm going to start with a green color. Okay, you know, this one is Magic Craw, kind of a bluish green color. You know, this one is watermelon red, and today we're going to start with the green pumpkin, which is really a natural color, works well almost in every place. Okay, so that's it for the punch setup. For the rod, you're going to want, you know, a 7.5 to 8 foot heavy action rod. Okay, you want a good reel. And with the reel, you're going to crank this drag down. I mean, this thing will not move. I mean, you can't pull this thing out, okay? I'm using an 8-strand, 65-pound braided line. And the reason we use 8-strand is because it's really smooth and it goes through the guides really nice and it doesn't make a lot of extra noise. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how we rig this punch setup up. Both of these setups, the finesse one and the heavy-duty punch setup. Okay, now we're going to rig up these punch rigs. The heavy duty rig first. Okay, we're going to use, we want to use a stout bobber stopper. There's several out there that are real small, but the bigger ones work better because you're using a big 1.5 ounce weight and it could slide up, and really you want that bobber stopper to keep that all together so it goes into the mat better. So what we're going to do is put this one on. See, this is a big one. It goes on pretty, it's pretty tough to slide up, which is good. So that means it'll stay there. So next we slide on the weight. We got the weight and the punch skirt. So next we have the hook. So whenever I'm using braided line, I'm going to tie a snell knot, and so I'll show you how to tie the snell knot. It's actually one of the easiest knots there are to tie. So you're going to want to go through the top. You're going to go through, hold the hook up, you're going to go through the top, and then you're going to grab the line and hold it. So you're just holding the line like that, and then now you're going to wrap it around about 4 times. Now you come back around, you grab that all together, now you come back around the hole that you held with your finger, and you just pull this up through. And it's good that you want to keep it all together, so then you just kind of hold the line in your teeth and cinch that up together. You just want to make sure it's not over the the barb of the hook of the bait keeper. So then you want to pull it really tight, because you don't ever want this to come loose, especially if you hook an 8-pounder in a mat. You don't want it to come loose. Now, just this knot like this, I have never had one of these ever come loose. So just trap it around 4 times, slide it back through. Now, another thing you want to do is you want to leave this tag end a little bit long. So you need a good pair of clippers that clip the braid. So you just want a little bit of a tag end. See, the fish aren't going to see that, but just in case that line slips a little bit, you have that little bit of cushion just in case. So now we're going to put a bait on here. We're going to start with the natural color flapping hog.
Show them how the hook cavitates out too much.
So yeah, I can show you. I'll show you why we tied the snell knot. You may have seen this before, but in case you haven't. So what happens is when you put pressure on the hook, a lot of times, see, well, the reason you do this is that a fish grabs this, especially a big fish will come up and grab this whole thing, and if you haven't tied a snell knot, this whole thing could come up straight together and possibly not hook the fish. So with that snell knot, when you set the hook, even if that fish has a hold of that weight, it'll pop that hook up and help you get the hook into that fish and land that fish. So now we're going to put the bait on. So these Kamagatsu hooks have a real nice bait keeper on there so the bait won't slide down. Tying on the flapping hog, and so we're going to put it through at just a little bit of an angle, and we're going to come out about 3/8 to 1/2 inch. I'm going to just slide it up, and I like to slide it up careful. You want it all the way up to the top like that, okay? And instead of text pose like you do with an extra wide gap hook, you want to bury this in here, okay? You want to bury it in there so it's nice and smooth, and you want it straight, okay? Because we're going down in the stuff. If it's text pose, anytime you hit a little weed or anything, that hook will pop out and you'll get stuck, and then that just won't be any fun. So we also have a magic marker, and you know, this may be more for you than it is for the fish, because I think once you're flipping this 1 ounce weight down, it goes down there so fast that, you know, the fish really don't see the line. That's why we're using braid. They're not really line shy. But at times you'll want to use a black magic marker when the line gets a little discolored from being out in the sun or out in the water. So you can just take your marker and just go down your line. So another thing you can do also is you may want to, once your line gets a little discolored, you can go to a certain depth. Say, we're just going to say this is about 2.5 feet. So once I flip this into a mat and I can see the black start to disappear, I'll know that it's down there at a good depth for these fish. Okay, so if I see it, if I'm flipping into 2.5 feet of water and I see it gets past my mark, then I probably have a fish on there swimming with it, and you want to set the hook. So now that we're all tied up, we're going to go out and go fishing. So it's June here on the California Delta, and the fish are pretty much done spawning. So we're going to stay away from these dead-end coves. We're going to go out in the current. We're going to look for some of these weeds, emergent and submerged, that have a little bit of current and a little bit of water depth on them. So we haven't been here for probably 6 or 8 weeks, so this is a new experience, and you'll get to follow along and see how we pick it apart and see how we dial in these fish and see what we can catch. All right, let's go fishing.
Okay guys, so today I'm going to be showing you a few different trips on this video. We weren't exclusively punching on all of these except I believe one. So what I want to do is I want to take you through. Mark and I are getting started off here fishing early June. There were still some fish on bed, so there wasn't as good as punching as there would be in like July or August, and then we're going to progressively move into those days and show you from there. This fish hooked up here wasn't necessarily a punch fish, but we did actually punch a mat, hit the fish, then we realized she was on a bed on the other side, so Mark picked up the drop shot to whack this one.
Ah, man, it's an 8-pounder.
I'm trying to get all that.
All right. Get the net.
You got the net? Oh, my goodness, where's the net at? Holy cow.
She in it?
She's in it.
Yeah! Yeah! Woohoo!
She's in it, all right.
That's a fish.
There's an 8.
That's a fish. In the mouth. Look at that.
Count it.
Wow.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
Woo. Good job.
Dude.
Team effort there.
Fish like that on light line take a serious team effort.
Hey, I know, you know what? We're out punching today, but when you see a fish like this, you know, we hooked this fish once on the punch weight, but this fish was on a bed, and you know what? They wanted the drop shot. Cool deal.
I'm keeping this net out.
All right, let's let her go for another day.
Hang with us, guys. We'll be right back. Attention Northern California anglers, have you been to Boat Country in Escalon? With one of the largest selections of welded aluminum fishing boats from Weldcraft, Lowe, and Hughescraft, chances are they've got the right fishing boat for you. And did I mention they have a full service center to take care of all your boating, repair, and maintenance needs? If you're a boat owner or just looking to become one, you owe it to yourself to check these guys out. Visit BoatCountryUSA.com or stop on by. I'll see you there. Been thinking about trying out kayak fishing or already into it and just want some sick upgrades for your rig? It's time to check out the Headwaters Kayak Shop. Come pick the brains of their knowledgeable staff and make sure to ask about their awesome demo program to find the right kayak for you. Or stop in and rent one with Lodi Lake right down the street. The Headwaters Kayak Shop fits all your yakking needs. Tell them if sent ya. Did you know that P-Line makes specialized lines for all your fishing needs? From the super strong abrasive resistant CXX or the low stretch super stealthy CX Premium, or maybe you're looking for invisibility or super bite detection with P-Line's 100% fluorocarbon. No matter what your needs, P-Line's got it covered. To find out more, visit P-Line.com.
P-Line, baby.
Hey Sportsman, have you ever wanted an all-in-one cleaning tool for small game or fish? Well, look no further. The Sportsman Field Tool offers an all-in-one stainless steel construction with all the bells and whistles. From a fillet knife, snip, snub knife, gut rake, and a scaler in its indestructible case, you really can't go wrong. Check your local retailers or visit sportsmanfieldtool.com. Ever tried pulling a planer board next to your boat when trolling or fishing from a swift current bank? If not, you're missing out on one of the most phenomenal fish catching machines on the market today. With Yellowbird planer boards pulling your lines perpendicular to your boat, you can't help but catch more fish. Find out more by visiting www.yellowbirdproducts.com. So what I was punching with is slightly different than what Mark was punching with. Mark's punching with that traditional style weight, that bullet style weight, just an ounce or ounce and a half. That makes an impact coming through, which can often, you know, let the fish know it's there. But I was punching with this Miller tungsten punching weight right here. Miller's got different styles of them, but this is the new tungsten version. The difference is if I pitch this whole thing up on a mat and I hold the tight line and I raise my rod tip, look how aerodynamic that is. That can find the smallest hole and work its way in the bait right through very easily. This allows me to not bomb it up in the air and have it slap down. I can pitch it up there, raise my rod tip, tight line, and creep it right through. I'm still using that Snell knot, and I'm going to show you, it still cavitates that hook out to the side. Yeah, it's not consistently in one direction, but when you whap it there, yeah, you're still going to dig into that fish. So the Snell knot does work. These have a little sleeve insert on it. A lot of the time I'll set my bobber stop maybe 2 to 3 inches up in front of it. A lot of the time that'll help this weight penetrate through, and then your bait will follow above it. Versus pegging it like you would do traditionally for punching. A lot of the time when it goes to penetrate, now you're trying to force too much mass through versus a couple inches up, it'll come through and create that perfect hole for your bait.
So a nice thing about punching, you know, with a heavy weight is that you can generally fish it pretty fast. We found there's a little slough right here, and then it comes around with another slough that goes around. Kind of a key area, but it's a big area that, you know, you're not exactly sure where the fish are pinpointed. So with the punching rig, we can go through pretty quick and not spend a long time here. Kind of, you know, like throwing a spinnerbait or a crankbait. You know, the punching rig goes down through there pretty quick, so it's more of a reaction bite than like a flip and finesse bite. So the key is that you can go through area pretty quick when you're not exactly sure right where they're located.
That taller hyacinth back there, it's been pegged down for a while. It's hooked in. You can tell it hasn't gone anywhere. And the taller it gets, the better of a darker canopy it gets too. It is really, really hard to penetrate that stuff. But the closer you can penetrate to it, it works a lot like a boat dock. It's really solid, really dark matte. It's about as heavy as it gets, plus you know that mat's been there for a long time. So a fish hasn't had to adjust off and get away from that. So more than likely, when you find those, that's a higher target area, higher percentage area for a bigger fish that doesn't want to move around much.
Now, as Mark mentioned earlier, the finesse punch rig, I'm not going to show you the how to tie it up. It's virtually identical to the 1.5 ounce punch rig. The only difference is you can get away with about 50-pound braid, and you're going to use about a full ounce to 3/4 ounce. It's right where you're verging on the line from heavy flipping to punching. A lot of the time this is working good on emergent grass, basically submerged grass that you see under the surface that are not mats. This is the type of stuff you're going to punch with that 3/4 or that 1 ounce. And a lot of the time you can use a bigger variety of baits. This is where like your Senkos are going to start coming back into play. Creature baits still work really good. A lot of the time guys will not use skirts for that submerged
punch
grass.
Spot. We're in a little cut, got current flowing through, a little deep mat. I tossed in there, hammered it. This guy, he ate it. He wanted it.
Now when it comes to the right rod for your punching, I use the iRod Genesis 2 Bub Tosh's punching rod. It's important to have the right rod when punching. Yeah, you need that heavy power, you need a lot of backbone. You're using 65 to 80-pound braid. But what's more important that is you do have a soft enough tip. The reason for this softer tip is strictly this. If you get a big fish and they're trying to shake that weight loose and they have their mouth pinned up against the mat and you have a stiff tip, you're holding them there and they're going to shake and get the leverage. What you want is you want a rod with enough cushion to where when they're down under there, they can move around and you're not pinning them there. So either you can get them through, they pull back down, you can try to get them back through again, but you never want to pin them up against that mat. So that right in between moderate fast, more leaning into the fast area, but that Gen 2 Bub Tosh punch rod is absolutely awesome by iRod, so check that out.
Hang with us, guys. We'll be right back. Have you had the opportunity to try out the only waterproof, near-weightless, shapeable, hands-free LED light on the market? That's right, I'm talking about the Lure Viewer, the most versatile, multi-functioning LED light available. Choose from its alligator clip or the super strong rare earth magnet that best suits your needs. I guess the only question is, how do you lure viewer? Have you been to rustylures.com? Did you know they offer free shipping on anything over $29.99? And with all the latest and greatest in bass fishing gear, from punching tackle, umbrella rigs, swim baits, and you name it, there's really no reason for you not to be getting the best deal online today. So go to www.rustylures.com. Did you ever wish for an RC boat when you were a kid? And do you have a passion for fishing? Well, guess what? It's time to do them both at the same time. With RCFishingWorld.com's RC Fishing Pole, it's time to be a kid again. So visit www.rcfishingworld.com today. Did you know that Bass Angler Magazine has more articles than any other bass fishing publication? And with the top pros from around the nation spilling the beans in every issue, there's really no reason for you not to be subscribed to the most informative bass fishing magazine there is, Bass Angler Magazine.
All right, you know what? You can look and you can see this just a big expanse of hyacinth and pennywort and a lot of stuff, really good stuff to be punching down in when the fish get up underneath. But you can kind of look at it and get really overwhelmed pretty quick and not know where to go. So some of the key things to look for when you're on a bank like this is, one, when you throw your bait in, you want it to drop down at least 12 inches. 2 feet is really ideal, especially for a big one. If you have 2 foot right under here, that's perfect. And then another thing you want to look for is you want to look for the toolie sticking up. So here, right here is one toolie, if you can see that, one toolie sticking up. So that would be a spot you would want to hit to. And then looking down the bank, you'll see there's a couple more places where some toolies are. So when you hit these toolies, there's a couple feet of water right next to them. Those are key, really key spots to target in on. You know, so you don't have to go fish the 500 yards of bank and try to see where the fish are. You just kind of key in on those key spots and go from there.
Going with him, he's there, he's there.
Giant! Giant! Oh, there was
monster punch fish.
Yeah. Guess what kind we're looking
There we go.
I think.
Couple pounder.
Nice.
Not bad.
Oh. So what I do when I'm punching, right now we're throwing a 1 ounce weight and a Yamamoto flapping hog with a Gamakatsu heavy wire hook. So I'm going to throw it at kind of a 45-degree angle down into the weeds so I can get it through, and I'll show you how we do that. So we pitch it just like that at a 45-degree angle, and I'll shake it a little bit and get it through. And then once it gets through, I'm gonna feather it through with my finger like that as I'm watching the line go out. And if it line jumps, you know, jumps or just keeps going, you know, I know it's about 2 feet deep there. So if it just keeps going 3 or 4 feet, I know I'm gonna close the rail and set the hook. This is not a big one, but when you're fishing in this stuff, this is just like an average size. Oh.
When they're buried down in that stuff, they always tend to be thicker. I don't know what it is. If you catch a fish that length off some riprap or just out over the open water, they always seem to be a lot thinner. I think these fish that tend to bury themselves in there are used to not exerting a lot of energy and picking off those small crawfish and just bulking up. You know, they don't burn a lot of calories chasing baits down, and I think those bass in there are just accustomed to that lifestyle and get a little fatter.
Yeah, they're living in there, eating. You know, that was just another weird bite. I was actually, when I was actually working it down through the weeds and got it down in there, moved a little bit, and it just felt funny. I never really knew I had a bite, but I set the hook anyway and got it. Another one on the flapping hog. I think I've gone through almost a whole pack of these already. Crazy, so. Right,
Woo! He's on the board. Got that one on the new Miller punching weight, the tungsten right there. The primary difference between Mark and I's presentation is he's coming through with a little bit more audio versus the Miller slips in. It's a little bit more quiet, even though Mark seems to be getting a lot more of the fish right now. They might be honing it down a little bit better. But if I'm fishing behind him and he's throwing to key targets, and I know Mark's not going to miss one obvious target. I know he's not. So a lot of the time, if I'm punching right behind somebody, you know, it's good to try to change it up. You know, just use a little bit more audio when you're coming in, punch from a little higher up, make a little bit more splash, use a really obviously different bait to help hone in on what's going on. Nice little fish there.
There he comes. There he comes. I got him.
Coming through.
65-pound line.
Yeah. That's a better fish there, baby.
That's what we're looking for there. Nice. Oh, another one on the flapping hog. You know, I mean, and that's how you want these things hooked, man. Right in the top of the head. Come right out of this stuff. Good one. That one's almost 4 pounds.
It's
nice fish.
It's right about there, yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, one of the things when you're out punching, you see Mark and I, this is a vast area. I mean, look how much stuff it could be punched. But look how close here, look how tall this is and how thin this is. When you see Mark pitch in, he's not necessarily pitching to the center of that flatter stuff or pitching to the center of the thicker stuff. He's pitching to the inside edge of it. Imagine this thicker stuff's like a boat dock. It's blocking out more light. So Mark's pitching up to the edge, in theory, of that boat dock, where this thinner, more sparse stuff has more light penetration. So basically there might be a darker, more solid shade line that these fish are sitting under, feeding to where that light penetration comes through. So there's basically that edge, basically a shade line right along there, and that's where we're pitching up to. And a lot of the time, if you can penetrate the thicker stuff, you should definitely give it a shot, because those negative feeding fish are oftentimes right under that thicker stuff, and those could be giants. And it, you know, it may take you 4 or 5 opportunities to get through there, but if you have that taller stuff pinned down in a windy corner and there's not much of it, chances are there's a big one sitting under there. So take your time and try to penetrate it. You get rewarded for it.
There's one. Oh! It's not big, but that's a fun one.
Got him punching either way.
Got him punching. Punching is just so much fun.
10,
you know, you throw it in there, and when you know you get a little tick or that line starts moving, and you just don't know. I mean, these fish could be giant in here. You know, I mean, that's a good solid little fish. A lot of fun.
Not bad.
But you just don't know how big they are until you set the hook and get them coming. So, great fun. There's one.
There we go.
Uh-oh. Big one? Oh, it's a good one.
Oh! The assist! Yeah, baby. On that black beaver, that's how Mark does it, in case you guys were ever wondering. Yeah. Oh, what happened? Got one upped in the middle of his speech. No, I'm just kidding. There you go, guys. Nice. On that black beaver, Reaction Innovations, using a 4/0 Trocar flipping hook, Miller punch weight, little bobber stop, just like Mark explained to you guys in the beginning. We'll get into some more detail, but we're having an absolute blast out here. Let's go whack some more.
Now this might sound a little bit obvious to you, but you need to keep in mind that you were imitating crawfish. Okay, crawdads. You know, we all know those guys. They pin up under those mats. They love the root balls hanging off the bottom of the hyacinths.
Coming in hot. Woohoo! Not bad. A little one on a sweet beaver, black and blue. And the Miller punch weight again. Not getting the giants, but we're getting a lot of punch fish. So at least it lets us know we are getting some action, and we'll run into some giants this way. That's the way to get them, you know, you stick it out. Even if you're getting small fish punching, that's still the way you get the giants.
So if you want some basic go-to colors, you know, from D-bombs, I fish black and blue or black and red. Any creature bait, I'm black and blue, black or red. If I'm fishing a little bit of sparse stuff or out near the edge where I know a little bit of light is going to be there, I like that black and red a little bit more. They can see the red. They might think it's a crawfish or blood or an appearing color at the last second. If I'm fishing further back or it's low light out and I'm still punching, I'm going to be fishing black and blue. So those are some real basic colors to go to, and pretty much they're going to work, you know, 99 out of 100 days. Those are the colors that are going to work.
This is the perfect spot. You know, we were going down the bank, like we were talking about earlier. All the way down the bank, there's a lot of stuff, and we had one tule clump sticking out. I pitched that tule clump, and he took it down, but, you know, he just got off. I had him on for a second, but he just got off. So.
Yeah, he's there.
Oh, it's like a decent one. Hey, get him in.
He's picked.
Good one.
Yeah. Nice. Woo! Mark just had one like this guy, hooked or bigger. Just happened to come unpegged under the mat, but it's a little bit more like what we're looking for now. What we're doing is right on the main alleyways where multiple parts of the river meet one another. We're targeting about the first 100 feet of mat, you know, hyacinths and stuff, and we're still following that rule with that 2 feet or more depth. It's about 2.5 feet right here. It's perfect. The wind's blowing into it. It's nice and tight, perfect shade canopy. We're dropping it right on their head. If we make it through the first 100 feet on those corners, like where I was just telling you about, whoa!
He came out
That one
after it.
came out into the hyacinths after it. You know, if we go through it and we don't get hit, we're gonna jump up and target another one. We're only focusing on the prime spot. If it's 1,000 feet long, don't cover 1,000 feet. Focus on the area right on the corner, areas with wind blowing on it, areas that have tules intermixed. You don't want to generally get too close to the riprap, but tules, hyacinth points, any mat points are going to be a higher percentage area for you too.
Now you're going to see me talk about the Miller weight quite often, and the reason why I tell people you need to have the traditional weight and you need to have the Miller weight is you have the option to be noisy with a Miller weight or be dead silent if you want. A lot of the time, if like you're in a prefrontal condition where you know the fish are going to be actively feeding, yeah, coming through a little bit noisier can definitely draw their attention, get them to hone down your bait. But if you're strictly going for a reaction strike, say it's post-frontal, you know they're buried down in there, they're negative feeding fish, and you want to creep up right in front of them, you can pitch to that exact target, raise your rod tip up and slide it in there and get them to react immediately. Another nice advantage to this, if you're fishing further back, let's say you have to make a pitch back in the hyacinths or pennywort and it's 30 feet back there, and you might have a tough time getting through with a traditional weight. The Miller weight offers you the option to pitch back there accurately like you normally would without bombing the weight way up there. You can get it back there, put a little tension on your rod tip, and it'll slide right through. So you're not spooking those fish in the shallow water, and you're presenting it to them perfectly and quietly.
I'm pretty sure that's a giant largie. Oh my God, there's a 10. Oh God, stay pegged, baby. Oh God. Oh yeah, 10 pounder. There we go. Okay, she's not done. She's not done. Stay back. Stay back. Yeah! Hell yeah! Woo! That's what we're punching for, baby. That's what we're punching for. Yeah!
Okay, let's talk a little bit about finding fish on these mats. You need to keep in mind that you need current, you need deep water close by, you need a minimal of about 1.5 feet under the mat, even on low tide. Keep that in mind. On high tide, the fish can push back all the way into the back of the mats. Low tide, they pull out towards the tip of the mats. So something to keep in mind, if you see a huge area of mats, you might not want to hit that on high tide because the chances of you hitting a fish greatly decrease. But on low tide, that huge area of mats, therefore, that back end of the mat, way back up there near the bank, closes off and it pushes them out near the head of that mat at that point. So if you see a big, vast area of mats and you're like, okay, that's too much to cover, think about punching it at low tide to where you have to cover much less of it to get in front of a fish. Keep in mind you always want to find bait fish around these things, sparse toolies coming up through the mat, pennywort, which is that other type of mat. If you find that strung in between those hyacinths, a lot of the time that'll lock those hyacinths in, and you know that mat's been there for a long time, so chances are it's got more crawfish up under the bottom of it, more bluegill hiding under there. A better bait source equals a bigger bass.
Oh man, I got him. I got your hand. Ah,
Yeah. Oh!
damn. Oh. Who's got slippery fingers now? I got it. All right. This fish probably used to be about 10 pounds. He just ate a crawdad, but
Look at that thing.
that's, you know, they have a,
There we go.
oh, a big one.
Come off. Oh, came off. That was a big one.
This, you know, they have an old legend here in the Delta. They call them mossbacks when they get really old, and you could see that thing is just nasty. But it's big. I mean, it's about 6 pounds. Has about a 10-pound mouth. We're gonna let him go.
I just had another big one.
Man, I saw that fish, and I thought it was about 12 pounds, and I was like, wow.
Oh yeah. What's huge? Yeah. Old bass. That Miller weight again. That trocar.
Go one.
That's a good one. Yeah, it is. Oh yeah, baby.
They're cheering me on. Oh. Oh, well, I thought it was a good one. I mean,
It's a fairly good one. Good one still in the title. Golly.
now you see, how often do you catch a fish like this and you have a cheering section behind you?
Yeah, that's not very often at all.
They're BAM fans.
Huge BAM fans. You should have seen the post. Oh, they took it down.
Oh, they took down
Yeah,
their BAM sign. Oh, all right. Well,
Next time though.
no, it's a fat little guy. We were happy to have him. Felt big in the thing. He came off. He would have been a 4-pounder.
That's it. Whoa, whoa, whoa! What happened there?
I turned around to get your fan club.
See guys, being the cameraman is not the easy job. Catching fish like Mark and I were doing here is definitely the easy job. Thanks for watching guys. We appreciate you watching all the time. Check us out at informativefisherman.com. We'll see you next time.
There we go. You still think it's a big swim bait? That's an 8.5, 9-pounder right there.
Slaughtered it and had a big one just before.
E&M double buzz bait right there, double blade. Woo! That's what we're punching for, baby. That's what we're punching for. Yeah!
Hey, what's up guys? Nick the Informative Fisherman here, and today we're going to be talking about how to catch giant bass. Guys ask me all the time, Nick, how are you getting these giant bass? How are you catching these trophies? And a lot of the mentality of anglers that I see that are amateur and even tour level guys are still on the, I need to get 20 bites to compete that.